Nobody Talks Shidduchim podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. It's IJ from the Nobody Talks Shidduchim podcast. This is episode 32, the response from the Shadchanit, or maybe we could say the fireside chat with the Shadchanit, or the Shadchanit strikes back, whatever title works best for you. Today, I'm going to have a conversation with Mrs. Rissel Namark, who is a Shadchan, has been setting people up for 15, 20, 25 years. She'll tell you a little bit more about herself. And we're going to talk about a bunch of topics and conversation that she is going to focus on. I hope you enjoy the conversation with her. Finding a Shidduch match is very tough. Where do you find them? Where do you go? Fortunately, there's an all-new website for chesed-minded individuals that are looking to find their zivug. Everyone is flocking to it. It's called Match Made in Hask. It's free, it has a private database, and it's run by leading Shadchanim from all different backgrounds and all over the world. It's created for Am Yisrael. Visit matchmadeinhask.com to join. That's matchmadeinhask.com to sign up today. So, Mrs. Namark,
hi, RJ. How are you?
Welcome to Nobody Talks Shidduchim podcast. I know it's just us today. Usually we have more of my colleagues, but they've sent me some questions for you to discuss, and wanted to hear a little bit about your background. And you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been doing Shidduchim, as many years as I can remember, and Baruch Hashem, I've been successful in making a couple of Shidduchim. Of course, it's becoming more difficult as time goes on because people have changed and expectations have truly changed today.
But what are just some things that have changed that you've been seeing the last few years, maybe the last 5, 6, 7 years, that we're kind of getting to more of a tumultuous state where it's becoming more and more tough? I don't think I would even say not even just setting people up, but keeping them together. It's becoming such a big problem.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you touched on that. It so happens today is the anniversary of the day I got engaged, and that's going back 38 years
Mazel
ago.
Tov, congratulations.
And I'm still married to the same guy, thank God. And if I had to do it over, I'd pick the same guy. And for another 120 years. So that'll tell you something. Okay? It was, when I got engaged, it was Columbus Day. Today, of course, it's called Indigenous People Day, as the times have politically changed as well.
Yes, they have.
But when I got married, I actually met my husband on my own. I grew up in Borough Park, and my husband at the time originally grew up in Forest Hills, but lived in Flatbush, where we met on our own. Our parents were both Holocaust survivors. They knew each other in Europe, but nevertheless, we never knew each other. When I came home, my mother did not call the CIA, the FBI, or the KGB to figure out who my husband was. She knew what kind of family he came from. Today, we're calling the CIA, the FBI, the KGB, and the Mossad. And the marriages, if they last a couple of months, we're lucky. So what does that tell you? It tells you that things have changed totally. When I got married, most of us, and I can really say this, a lot of us got married on chemistry. We either were introduced to someone, and even in the frumest of frum, okay, maybe there was a shadchan, but the shadchan was not making the phone calls, setting up the date. The boy actually had to call the girl, whether he was a rabbi, whether he had smicha, whatever type he was, he actually picked up the phone to call the girl and developed a relationship with her. When he got engaged, he actually proposed to her. The shadchan didn't go back and forth, give heads up. Now, I'm waiting for the day to come where the shadchan will actually start to propose. That will be the next era. But basically, people got married on chemistry. People liked each other, okay? There was enough chemistry, and they figured the rest out, meaning their value system had to be the same, which is always an important thing in marriage. And the rest of the stuff they figured out. Why? Because people came with good midos in those days, for the most part. So if you have two people who have good basic character and have the same value system, okay, and have some chemistry between them, generally they're committed to make a marriage work. This is all lacking today. Today, most of the Shidduchim are facilitated by Shadchanim. Of course, there are those people who meet on a website, which is becoming more and more popular as people are getting disgusted with the system. But for the most part, it is very, very hard to develop chemistry when a Shadchan is setting up your date. Okay, the Shadchan is giving over information back and forth. How does one develop a relationship that way? That's to begin with. I'm going to ask you that, IJ, in certain circles. I ask you, IJ, when do you want to go out on a date? Is Tuesday good? Then I call the girl. I set up the date. Then I get feedback from the girl. I get feedback from the boy. Some of them, okay, even end the relationship through me. They want to, instead of being manning up or womening up. Manning up, basically, and ending the relationship, they'll dump the girl through me, or the girl will dump the guy. Now, I think if you've gone out several times, okay, you should be able to do your own dirty work and not hide behind the shop.
Yes.
What does that do?
I would give a pass. I would give a pass for that. Maybe first date, maybe even second date. But if if after a second, you're going out with someone 3, 4, 5 times more, have the decency to give some closure on the other side, right?
No, correct. So what does that say for the state of people today? When a person is going out 7 dates and then calls me up, maybe you could end it. I say, maybe you could end it. Maybe you should be grown up. If you're grown up to get married, you should have the decency to give the girl or the boy some closure. That's what I feel is only the right thing to do as a human being, and to preserve someone's dignity. The person will never, when the Shadchan gives over the information, sometimes it's not as the person said it, and the Shadchan embellishes. I don't happen to do that, but many times the Shadchan will give a third reason, which isn't even the reason. So there's no point in doing that.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that. To jump on that point, I'm a fan of that. That you could, and I'll blame. Look, I'll put blame. I'm willing to put blame on the guy or the girl in that predicament where one of them wants to end it. But we also can't just take out the factor that many Shadchanim might just make that single so used to a certain protocol where everything has to go through me, this and that, there's so many rules that apply in, Shidduchim.
It's enabling people to be babies, and it's removing all accountability. And when you have no accountability, there is no responsibility either. And how does that translate when you get married? What, the parents have to be accountable, bail you out all the time? It doesn't work like that.
Right. There's some basic human developments of growth that you can, proper steps to take when you're just basically getting set up and just going through a process that we're lacking and we're missing out on. So I think it's a really solid point that you mentioned. Now, I could understand though for people who are younger and maybe just getting into it to kind of put the training wheels on them, but
no. I'm seeing this even as old as couples in the 30s.
That's where the problem is.
But I will not do it. So I will not allow that to happen. I personally make all of them accountable. I say to them, if you've gone out that many times, you owe it to the girl or boy to tell them why. Okay, because you need to give them closure, and they need to be able to move on. And I don't think it's the right thing, and I don't think it's fair. And if you were my child, that is what I would expect you to do. It's about learning how to grow up and be responsible.
Yeah, Mrs. Namark, where were you, a few weeks ago with myself? There was someone I was seeing. I was crazy about her. I actually even went to my Rebbe. We actually had the same Rebbe, which was, that's how I knew it was pretty Midrash for me. And literally everything you're saying happened. I was in such clear communication with the Shadchan and also with the girl to a point, but the girl preferred we do everything through Shadchan. Any kinds of feelings, anything.
Well, the girl prefers to do everything through the Shadchan.
Yeah.
Because this way she could cop out. Because she did.
And that's what she did. She copped.
That's exactly why she did it.
She saw how crazy I was about her.
Because people are not honest today. People don't say what they mean. They don't mean what they say. And there's no accountability for anything today. This is a serious problem we have with this generation. And I did not grow up that way. And you know what? Maybe because a lot of us from our generation grew up with Holocaust survivor parents. And they learned survival instinct. And when you have survival instinct that kicks in, you know how to handle yourself. You don't hide behind someone else. And that was a skill that we were blessed with, and I see this missing big time today.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we wouldn't have a podcast talking about it with several thousand followers and listeners to talk about it.
So it comes down to, so problem number one is there's not much accountability. You create a mess and somebody else digs you out of that mess.
Right.
That's the first problem with accountability. The second problem we have today is we have something called major expectations from the boys and major expectations from the girls. And with the boys, it's generally about three things. Look, generally. Okay? But the difference is that guys don't expect that much. If the looks are attracting to them, then if the girl is nice enough, she's smart enough, generally the guy will give her a good chance. And he doesn't sit with a scorecard. Will she be a great mother? Will she be a great wife? Will she be able to cook every, favorite dish that I have? He doesn't look into it that much. Guys don't think into it as much. I mean, of course, there are differences. Some guys do, but as a whole, most men don't think into things the way women do.
Yeah, and that's what we advocate on the podcast many times with my co-host Avery and myself, where we say the same thing you say, and it's just look after that. Did they get along? Are things working out? Did they like each other? From there it kind of takes off more naturally. But you're saying, and for the girls, it's different. It's not.
I find guys will make excuses for a girl if they're attracted to her and they like her. They'll overlook flaws, which they shouldn't always do, but they'll usually overlook flaws simply because they don't think into it as much. Of course, I'm not going to say all guys are like that, but as a whole. Girls, on the other hand, okay, look into everything. The girls are not honest with themselves, okay? Girls say, I asked the girl, what does she want? I want a nice guy, I want a mensch, which is baloney, okay? When you start asking what that means to them, then the list gets a little longer. First, they say they want someone who's a nice person, good character. I say, great. Okay. Then they want somebody who's learned, and he should earn a living. Okay, that's already two different husbands. Oftentimes, they want Rabbi Akiva before the wedding. They want Kalba Savua after the wedding. Okay, that's two different husbands in one. Then you say, and what about looks? How does that play in? Oh, yeah, of course he has to be nice looking too. So now you ask for looks too, right? Then I say, let's talk about family. How much does family count? Oh, yeah, of course he has to come from a good family. So at this point, what have you overlooked? You want good character. I say, what about personality? He's quiet. Is that okay? Oh, no, I need a guy with personality. So now you ask for looks. You ask for personality. You ask for a guy who's learned. You ask for a guy who earns a living. And you ask for a guy who comes from a very good family. So you have overlooked nothing, right?
Right.
And you expect that guy to want you, right?
Yep.
And the bottom line is there's nobody perfect, and most men are a work in progress. They become a finished product after they're married. And you know what? In my days, it was nothing different. It's just that women were not so judgmental. It always took a good woman to create a good man. Okay, a woman can fashion a man into a piece of gold, or she can make a shmata out of a man.
I cannot agree with you more.
Very good at making shmatas out of the husband. Okay, I learned one thing from my mother-in-law. I was blessed with an amazing mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was a smart woman. They had a business. My mother-in-law ran the business, but she was smart enough not to show him that she was the boss. I mean, as you know, she can lead the show, but she was smart enough not to undermine her husband. Today, it's no problem. 5 minutes after they're married, a woman will undermine her husband and have no respect for him. And when a woman has no respect for her husband, the marriage is basically over.
Yeah. You're people don't realize that you're building a shalom. You're building a shalom bayis. You're building a house together, and you have to take some hits on both sides. But work on that. And like you're saying,
men in general need respect, and if a man does not feel being respected by a wife, the marriage is basically over for him.
Yes.
Women want to be loved, and they need respect too, but women crave more to be loved, and men crave respect. I mean, they want to be loved, obviously, too. But once a woman is not respecting her husband, the marriage is basically over. And this is what women today do not understand, because women today are boss ladies. It's one thing, I remember when one of my sons was dating. So I said to him, you have to be Charles in charge when you take out a girl, and you have to decide where you want to go, where you want to sit, this and that. And he said, I don't understand. I thought you were the boss, not daddy. I said, listen, before you're married, you're the boss. If you're married, you let her become. That's the way it usually works in a Jewish home. But you have to be smart enough to know how to play a little game.
And it's interesting because, when I was younger and I was seeing people, my friends, just, being picked off one by one, I did notice that. I noticed that, whether it was where I had some friends who were more slubbish, or I had some friends who had it together, there was that dynamic where, they loved the girl and the girl respected them, and they grew it. They took it from there. But let me ask you, like you mentioned before, most men are not a finished product. And I agree with that 100%.
Never were, but they weren't in my days either. It's just they were closer to finished product. Meaning, in my days, most of the men were educated, because in my days, the yeshiva boys did go to college. And even if you look at many Rabbanim, they're all educated today. If you look at Rabbanim from yesterday, from my days, they were all educated. They were all college educated. Of course, today, less and less go to college, because the atmosphere is very different. And if you look at the political atmosphere, and the world is a very decadent place. So most of the boys stay in yeshiva simply because they don't want them in the outside decadent world so fast, because they know that. And not only that, I did not grow up in an era of internet. Today, the world of internet leads boys to a very slippery slope. And once they're in the outside world and they have access to internet, many of them, the from type goes by the wayside, and therefore more boys are in yeshiva. So there's less responsibility on boys' sides, and that's why they gear them to get married young. But the ones that become professionals do not get married young. They don't really have someone guiding them. They don't really have necessarily always a Rebbe that they're connected with.
Yeah.
And so once there's no guidance, they do their own thing. And not only that, once the longer a guy is single, okay, the pickier he gets, and the longer a girl is single, the pickier she gets, because the kind of guy that she is accustomed to now in the workforce is not the kind that the frum world offers her. And so there's a big disparity, and she's not willing to fashion a guy, and even if she was willing to do so, it's much harder to fashion a guy once he gets older. That's why they advocate for getting married young. There is something to getting married young. When you get married young, you grow together. My husband was 23 years old when I married him. Okay, he had just finished school. He wasn't working yet, and we figured things out. But today, girls are earning a very nice living. Guys are the guys who are out there who are, let's say, professionals, they're both earning a living. Okay, girls do not have the same hashivas for marriage as they did years ago, because they have total independence today, and they have everything they want. And the way they look at it is that some of these guys are just a pain in the neck for them. No, they're not offering them anything more than they don't have already.
Yeah, and that's why I like what you mentioned before, which is something that I advocate on, is whether the couple is younger or older, a woman needs to try, a girl or a woman needs to try to find someone, look for their potential, look for what they could become, not just what they have, not just based off of, what's he doing with his life right now? And this is something I stress all the time. I say our parents did not have this where, there was an option of minyanim to go to in the morning, an option of learning, and an option in all these things. They focused one at a time to grow to where they needed to get to. And, I see the difference of people who, actually are tying the knot when they're younger, or younger is in even 25, not even just in their late 20s or late 30s. They saw the potential.
100%. I got married young, and when you get married young, you figure things out and you work it out, because you spend more of your time married than you ever did single. The problem is that people are spending more of their life single than they're getting married. And this is the real thing. People get accustomed to themselves. They don't know how to compromise. It really, all it takes to have a good marriage, it's not that much. All it takes is to be a good person, meaning a giving person, because if you're not a giving person and you're a selfish person, you don't belong married. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you have to offer. It doesn't matter how smart. It doesn't matter how good looking you are. It doesn't matter what you have to offer. If you're a selfish person, you do not belong dating or to get married unless you're able to work on your selfishness, because being a selfish spouse is a terrible trait and you will never be a good spouse. So this is a problem. We have me generation. That's number one. So if a person is a good person, okay, and the two people have the same end goals, meaning the same life goals, okay, and they have some chemistry between them, most of the time that marriage could work. The real problem is that people are, they come with expectations, meaning they're not such giving people. They have expectations of someone else, but they don't have expectations of themselves. So there's a double standard there. So that's not really good meeting. The second thing is they don't often have the same end goals because they don't date long enough, or let's say, in the more right wing circles, they certainly don't date that long, or they get married and they don't really know each other. So if they didn't know that they don't share the same end goals, life goals and life values, then there's problems in the marriage. I once heard Jonathan Rietti give a lecture. This is way before my kids. He's
fantastic. I love Rabbi Rietti.
Okay, and this is what I remember. And as a person who was setting up people, many times I would set people up on the basis of their similarities. And what he said really stood out in my mind. He said that what makes a good marriage is not the similarities that people have. It's their ability to handle differences. And the problem is today, very few have the ability to handle differences. Look at our political world, okay? What I say matters. What you say is irrelevant. So there's no respect for one another. This is the problem.
Yes. And we're also, I will stand up for my generation, or like a respect for what you say, and I would say, look, this is also a big part of the gullus we're in, whether it's caused by us or if it's just the way things are meant to be. We're in it, and we do want to really help as many people as we can. And the conversation we're having is phenomenal. I mean, you're really giving really solid insight into so many of these big problems that we're facing today. Okay, so we're going to take a break with our conversation from Mrs. Rissel Namark, and take a look at this on the webpage. We have a really inspiring video with Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson. Everyone remembers him. He was the one who met President Trump at a Jewish rally, over a year ago. But everyone knows Rabbi Y.Y. That was awesome, by the way. So Rabbi Y.Y., really emotional, powerful, moving video, titled Still Single, Never Give Up. Some really powerful messages from him. So take a look at that. We hope you enjoy. And we'll be back right after this brief break.
Hey, this is Yonah from the Nobody Talks Shidduchim podcast. Did you like our new jingle? Well, thank you. I wrote and sang it, but my vision would never have been realized without my talented buddy, Hillel Kapnick. At Uptop Recording Studios in Muncie, Hillel takes your musical dreams and transforms them into reality. I can personally attest to his talent and general awesomeness. Hillel is available for song production, musical arrangements, vocal recording, mixing, mastering, and more. He's also a DJ and a one-man band, so no matter what your musical needs are, Hillel is your man. For more information, check out his website at hillelcaps.com. That's HILLELKAPS.com. And follow him on Facebook and Instagram.
So I do want to ask one question to you, because some of my co-hosts were interested in knowing, who would you actually blame more? Because there's this preconceived notion, it's always the guy's fault, and I fight back against that. I really explained to people today that I would even it out more, maybe even put a bit more on the girls. And I know I'm a guy for saying that, and it's girls don't want to hear that, but who would you actually really put the blame a little bit more on? Now, it could be the Shadchan also. It could be the Shadchanit. It could be this girl, the guy. Who are you saying is really a big leader in this
I'm going to agree with you. I'm a woman, and I'm going to tend to agree with you. Now, I'm not, again, if for the women listening to this, I don't want to get any hate mail or whatever, because I'm a woman, and I have lovely girls that I'm dealing with. I have many girls who seriously want to get married, and who are flexible, and those are the girls who usually get married. But as a whole, women's expectations of today are way, way too high, and the men of today cannot deliver half of the expectations that the women are seeking. And this is a major problem.
Thank you very much.
So it's very nice if you have a list of the qualities you want in a husband or in a man, but if they don't exist in today's marketplace, you cannot marry them. My mother, Allah Hashem, used to say, when you want to get married, you need to do two things. You need to marry somebody who wants you, not somebody who you just want, because that's not feasible. And the second thing is you need to marry somebody who exists in today's marketplace, not some fictitious character that you've invented in your head. That doesn't seem to work. And this is the problem. People have notions of what their husband or man should be like, but they don't make men this way today. So welcome to the world. Okay? Welcome to 2020. And if you want to get married, you have to get real. So this, I fault the girls for. Unless a girl wakes up and says, listen, but the problem really is it takes some girls till their upper 30s to finally figure that out. I've been pleading this with them since they were in their early 20s and saying, listen, the kind of guy you want doesn't exist today. And they go, yeah, I just need one. But you haven't found him. You're now 30. You're now 35.
Yeah.
So when are you going to find him? You're 90? You have to wake up and you have to make compromises. Now, I'm not saying what a person should compromise, but everyone needs to figure out where can they compromise and how can they compromise. And you can still get a good husband, but you need to fine-tune him. So even if you take a shy guy, so what? He could make a perfect husband. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with him. Give him a chance. Maybe he'll open up. Not if you dump him after the second date.
Yona and Chani Laster brought up when they came on a few episodes ago is, singles are looking for so many reasons to say no right from the get-go, right when they get the resume, right when they start in the first date. Try in the beginning to at least focus on some of the positives of what can warrant, continue, what warrants me to continue going out with this person. You know what? I actually did feel good about this, that, and that. You know what? Let's use that as a basis to proceed forward. Today, from the guy's perspective, especially myself, and I can tell you, so many guys I know, we're feeling eyed up and down. The girls are eyeing us up and down, and what can I find wrong with this guy? And there's so much for us to prove that really pushes us back and gets us so down, and we can't be ourselves.
And I find this on both ends. And the reason for that is like this. The way I see it is that people are so scared today. We live in very, very confusing times. So, okay, we have a twofold problem. The first problem is getting in the door. The getting in the door is a whole separate issue. It's because resumes create a false sense of security. They create a false sense of security for a guy. A guy's holding a stack of papers, 100 resumes. From the 100 resumes, he would want maybe 10% of them, and out of the 10%,
right,
maybe 5 will want him. So that means out of the 100 resumes, if you do the math, it's not very many people, okay? So it's
right,
a false sense of security. On the other hand, the girl, by the time it goes to the girl and the guy says yes to her, she reads the resume and she's like, this? I don't want anything on this resume, because you can't really know who a person is from a resume. So the resume is its own problem. But we're not even talking about that. We're talking about when a couple enters the relationship, okay? So it's very easy to look to disqualify as opposed to qualify. Now, the people who want to get married actually look to qualify, okay? When there's more good in the shidduch, you actually go forward. And if you're unsure, you speak to a mentor, you speak to a rav, or you speak to somebody you trust, okay? And sometimes it could be, and many times if you have parents that are seicheldika people, you know that your parents have your back, they're the best. But sometimes parents are even a detriment, because not all parents, even though they supposedly have their kids' back, sometimes parents have their own agenda, and sometimes parents have unfulfilled dreams, and their expectations for their children is way more than their children expect, so that creates a problem too. So not always can every child go to a parent. But people are not looking to qualify because they look around them, they see a world of confusion, they see a world of divorce-laden world, and so they don't want to be another statistic. So as soon as they see something that might be a red flag because they're not equipped enough to figure out even what a red flag today. Any stupid minor issue which will make no dent in your marriage becomes now a red flag. There's the ikar and the k'tokto. Okay, in my days, people looked as a red flag. The ikar was a red flag when there was a serious problem, and the minor details, you figured it out. But today, they make the minor problems, a major issue, and the major issues that they leave by the wayside. So people are very, very confused, and they're not looking to get married because they're scared. And so there's no remedy for fear. There's no remedy for fear in life, even if everything looks smooth sailing. The last 20% before you get engaged is a leap of faith. Now, I say to singles, I love that. If you daven, okay, and girls daven as well, okay, if you look at all the tefillos, okay, that our Gedolim have made for us, okay, if you look at Shmona Esrei, okay, there's Atachonim Das, okay, and you have about Chochmah and Bina all over davening. If you actually ask Hashem, when you're involved in a relationship, Hashem, you know what's best for me. I really don't know. If you think that the Shidduch I am dating is a good Shidduch for me, and that's my Zivuk, please let it go smoothly. If not, let it disappear. I have davened for my children that way. I have davened for myself when I was single that way. And trust me, Hashem pulls disappearing acts when he needs to, and he pulls off things. And when things are going smoothly and it's going through, that's Hashem holding your hand and guiding you. And you need to see that.
I love that. I love that.
And understand that there is God in the picture. And if you've concocted a spouse for yourself and God decided that you deserve something else, that will not happen. So there is God in the equation, but you have to let him guide you. And if you're blinded and don't see God in your life, we have a problem today.
I love that. I love what you just said, and it's such a good attribute for people to adopt, where when they daven, they should just daven for clarity and exactly what you're saying. Let
never
Hashem
daven for a person. Never, even if you're in love with someone, never daven for a boy. Never daven for a girl. Daven, Hashem should give you clarity, and if it's meant to be, it should go smoothly. If not, it should disappear even faster. And when you daven like that, Hashem takes care of things. But how many of us really do that? Okay, and it's the same thing if you haven't, there's nothing. I tell couples in a relationship, conduct an experiment. When you're in a relationship, instead of opting out, you could always throw in the towel, you could always end the relationship, but you cannot get it back. So when in doubt, continue going out. Because at the end of the day, there is nothing, and I repeat, there is nothing in life that stays the same. Things either go up or they go down. Imagine, God forbid, a patient in the hospital. That patient either gets better, improves, and leaves the hospital, or that patient gets worse and doesn't make it out. And the same thing with a relationship. No relationship stays the same. It either goes up or it goes down. And therefore, okay, when you're in a relationship, you see it through. I can guarantee every single that sees every relationship through, they will be married, because there comes a turning point, and at some point when you're dating someone, you get to you come to the realization, this person really has a lot of good qualities. I could actually marry this person, or this person actually disgusts me. I can't stand their habits. I can't stand their mannerisms. I'm out of here. I'm checked out. That's the day you leave. But when you're unsure, when in doubt, go out, and you will have
us singles say date him until you hate him, but I like that when in doubt, continue going out.
True, because generally when you opt out earlier, you're doing so on a subconscious level, because in your head, you either don't find the person as attractive as you'd like to find them, and so you want to ensure that no chemistry develops, or it's not the husband or wife that you envision, so you want to ensure that you're going to do better than you think, what you see in front of you. But meantime, you don't really know the person entirely. In other words, there are many people who are a little guarded. There are many people who are shy, and you don't really see, all their attributes at the first moment. So you need to let them in your life slowly. Not everybody opens up immediately. People have been hurt. People have been burnt. People don't open up so easily. Not everyone's an open book, and if somebody's a little more reserved, that doesn't make them a bad spouse necessarily. They'll probably be a very loyal spouse once you get to know them, but you haven't given them a chance. And so if you truly want to get married, you give everyone a chance. That's how it was in my days.
Yeah,
I mean,
I see that. I see that with many girls that I know, that I keep up with, who are married. They were literally telling me that, right before they met their husband, a few years, they were just like, they were just very accepting. I'm gonna just give whoever a chance. I don't know where it's gonna come from. I'm so at that point of finished with planning every little detail and having to cross every little checkbox off, that they were gonna, like you said, when in doubt, just keep on going out, and that's really where it comes from.
And that's because they're allowing God in their life. They're trusting God to guide them. Because when you're saying, I have friends. Let's say I know people who can't marry off any of their children. And I also realize that these are people who micromanage God, okay? And I figured out one thing, okay? When you try to micromanage God, you know what God says? Let me go to the person who needs my help. So if you don't need God in your life and you figure you know better than God, I know what's good for me, then God is not there to help you. The person who says, Hashem, I really need you. I really don't know who is Basher for me or who's Basher for my child. Please help me out. That's the person God helps. So if you don't need him and you don't look for him, he's not there for you. So don't expect it.
I love that. Such a lot of insight there.
We just passed Rosh Hashanah. We just passed Yom Kippur. Didn't the buzzer go off in anyone's head? I hope it did.
Let me ask you before I get to our ending segments here. What do you have to say? And we're thinking of doing a totally separate episode on parents and Shidduchim, but are parents getting too involved? Are they not enough involved? I know you touched up on this a lot, but there are a significant amount of people. I'm telling you, it is beyond you.
We have two basic problem parents, in my opinion. Okay, that have a harder time marrying with kids. Okay, parent number one, who's totally controlling. Okay, parent number one, who's living vicariously through the child, meaning a parent who maybe they're not so happy in their marriage, maybe they're missing things in their spouse, and now they want, a do-over, and so when they're marrying with their child, okay, now all the things they're missing in their spouse, they want for their child. Or maybe a parent has an amazing husband and she's expecting a son-in-law to be exactly like her husband, which today's men are not your husband. And in order to get a guy like that for your daughter, you need a 50-year-old man or a 60-year-old man, but you're not getting a 20, 30-year-old guy who's the equivalency of your husband. So forget that. So parents need to take their dreams and toss them out the window because you know what? Your children are a different generation than you, and you have to.
And what could that single do? What can that single do, whether a guy or a girl?
They have
to stand up for themselves.
They have to stand up for themselves. Now, I'm not going to say, there are many good parents and that really have their kids back and who look out for the kids who understand the realities today. Now, for those who are blessed to have those parents, they better go home and thank them and kiss them and hug them because they're really. They're really doing everything right. But you know what? Not everyone has that type of parent. Not everyone's parent is able to guide them.
It's very scarce. Very, very scarce.
If you don't have a smart parent, okay, if you're not a smart person, you don't have a smart parent, unfortunately, not everybody does, and you don't have someone to guide you, then you need to find a mentor. You need to find somebody, and this has to be a smart person. And I don't mean smart scholastically, just. It has to be a person who's a wise person, based person and who understands the Shidduch system of today. And you need to align yourself with someone like that. And if it's a guy, you need the Rebbe, but somebody who understands get advice from the people who have been successful. Go to people who have married off their children. Don't take advice from the blind leading the blind. If somebody hasn't been successful, okay, if you are becoming a successful professional, go to somebody who's been successful in that arena. Don't go to somebody who can't find a job. So in anything in life, you need to go to the right people, and there is help available. There are even dating coaches. So that's the first parent that has a problem, the parent who's micromanaging. Then there's the parent who's laissez-faire, totally hands-off. Okay, that's a problem because that parent says, oh, my kid needs to get an education. I got an education. What are we worrying about getting her married? 19, 20. We have time. She's too young, 21. What's the big deal? She doesn't realize all the good guys get grabbed up, and she's totally out of touch with today. I got married when I was X age, she says. Meantime, in this day and age, okay, at a certain point, you've missed the boat because the good ones go fast. So at this point, you're stuck with either a pickier bunch, which if you haven't landed them till now, you're not going to land them. So you need to get them married young, and parents need to understand that. So if you're the type of parent that's a laissez-faire parent, your child needs to go and find someone who will. She needs to advocate for herself. She needs to approach Shadchanim for herself. I know when a girl reaches out to me for a Shidduch, I'm very inclined to help her. If she's coming to me, I realize there's no mother there behind her, okay? And I realize that this girl really needs my help. And
that's great.
Someone.
That's
so
great that you're there.
Sometimes when I have parents micromanaging, it's more annoying. It's much easier to deal with single. So there's nothing wrong with a girl reaching out and doing her hishtadlus. Now, the parents I find that are the most successful marrying their kids off are the parents who realistically say to their children, what are you looking for in Shidduch? Tell me what's important to you. And they're smart enough to help them and to guide them and to make them be reality-based. And they also make them accountable. Because if parents don't make them accountable, they do not get married young. Meaning, if a girl or boy comes home from a date and the mother says, how was your date? And the kid says, nice guy, nice girl, not for me. And the parent doesn't even ask why, doesn't even make them accountable, and just says, next mamala, next tatala, next mamala, next sweetheart, next.
Right, the parent can detect some discrepancies, and they can put their foot down, and in many ways it could help. It could help that person. Absolutely. I didn't think about it like that.
I made my kids accountable for every date they went out with. They had to answer to me, and I was a mother who said to my son once, remember, I checked this girl out. She sounds great. The next one could be worse. Most people saying the next one could be better. I say, better take it seriously because the next one could be worse. That's you know what I'm saying? You want to get them married, you have to make them accountable. That's my theory.
I love it.
And again, you don't micromanage. You don't tell them who to marry. That's their bechira, but you have to make them accountable. They're not, look, our generation is responsible. We have coddled our kids to some degree. And then we let them get married. And we think that all of a sudden when they're dating, they know it all. Well, you know what? If we've coddled them till now and carried them till now, what makes my generation think that now they can handle everything on their own? That's like letting them loose and expecting them to do everything right. They need a little fine-tuning also. And that's where parents come in. But parents have to have the kids back, and they have to look for a shidduch that's good for the kid. And you can't be like, when my kids were little, there would always be that mother who would say to the teacher, let's say that the kid was put in a lower level, and the parent would come to the teacher and say, my kid belongs in a higher level. The kid didn't belong in a higher level, but the parent felt the kid belonged in a higher level because it was for the parent's honor. The parent was embarrassed. But that's not a way that your kid is going to be successful, because if your kid can't keep up with the classroom, then the kid doesn't belong in that level. And it's the same thing with the shidduch. If someone's looking for an upgrade in the shidduch and a child is not cut out for that shidduch, that's a misconception as well.
Yes. Very well said. I mean, just words of magic.
That's to show off for the parents. That's just, accolades for the parents. But you're setting your child up for failure.
Right. It's such an interesting, unique take. And, before we go, I just want to head to our closing with you. Just in closing, Mrs. Namark, what would be, two things you're leaving off for the guys, two things you're leaving off for the girls, as we just hit our closing and could have the audience take away something aside from all of the amazing points you made, very clear, very descriptive. What are some two things that, they could really focus on that they can try to change or try to better that, from coming from your experience?
Okay, the first thing I'm going to say is look for someone with good midos. You could marry a beauty queen. You could marry Mr. Gorgeous. But your marriage does not stand a prayer if there's nothing to back it. Meaning if the character is not there, no matter how beautiful someone is, you can't look at them 24/7. What guys fail to realize is many people think if they fall in love and they marry someone beautiful, and the chemistry is, and there's fireworks there, that's going to remain for the rest of their life. And that is a big fallacy. Okay, life has a lot of twists and turns. I would say to guys, what you really need, you need somebody who's attractive enough. I don't expect a guy to marry someone who's unattractive. Torah doesn't expect that either. You need to have a girl who has coping skills. If you marry a beauty queen only, and she has no coping skills, okay, you're out of luck because your marriage won't withstand anything. So you need a wife who's good-natured, a wife who cares about, who's a loyal person, who respects you, and a person who has coping skills. Because in this world, if you can't manage stresses, you know what, that's where divorces come in. And that's what guys don't realize. It's not about looks only. So this is something you need to look. Coping skills, good midos, and someone who respects you. And if you have that, and someone who has obviously the same value system as you, and if you have that, you will have a good marriage if you're willing to do the work.
That's amazing.
On the other hand, girls need to understand that all you need is good potential, good raw material. If you have a guy who's a mensch, let's say his job isn't the greatest now. You know what? With a wife and a little security of a wife, and all of a sudden he has responsibility of a family. If he's a responsible being, he will be responsible and he will earn a living. There's no guarantee. If the person's not a responsible person, then it doesn't matter. But if he's a responsible person, you don't love his job now, he can change it. You can't change your husband, though.
Right.
So there has to be basic characters. If a guy is a mensch, he's a little quiet. You know what? 90% of the speech was given to women anyhow. So what's the big deal if the man's a little quieter? So he'll listen to you, okay? It's not, you stop comparing guys to your father. You'll be ahead of the game.
For better or for worse, right.
They compare guys to their brother. But the problem is they tell me they want the good in their brother, but they don't want the bad in the brother. That doesn't work. So if you want to compare a guy to your brother, then accept the fact that your brother has some negative traits, but those you want to leave aside. You're not going to get a perfect man. I say every man comes with half a dozen of these milas and half a dozen of those patronas. The other guy comes with half a dozen of those patronas and half a dozen of. Pick your choice. Pick which patronas you can deal with. I call them livable patronas. Marry someone with livable patronas. Patronas that you can live with. I once gave a bracha. One of the shidduchim I made, I actually spoke at their Sheva brachas, and this was the bracha I gave my couple. I said, look at each other. I want you to look at each other for the rest of your life from the eyes of a shadchan, which means, minimize the flaws and maximize the assets. That's the beauty of how you should look at each other every day of your life. That was the bracha I gave them, and that's what I say to people. Beautiful. Try to maximize the milas and minimize the chesonos. And if you want to look inward, check out your own chesonos.
I love that.
Somebody has to live with you and realize that you're dishing out a lot too.
And that's a good place. That's a good spot to end. We appreciate you coming on, Mrs. Rissel Namark. And
my pleasure.
And we have a lot of listeners. If they'd like to reach out to you
Absolutely.
Is that okay? Do you have an email address you want to give them?
You know what? I prefer. You know what? I get bombarded with emails. If somebody, in other words, if somebody's reaching out regarding a shidduch or shidduch help, I would prefer they call my phone. Not even to text me, because then I get flood.
Okay, phone call. So you can call her direct. Do you want to give your number to the audience?
Yeah, I'll give it. It's 718-263-5517. That number doesn't get text.
Okay, excellent. So people could call that. People could call that number.
I usually return phone calls.
Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure, and I want to give a bracha. I hope everybody finds close to what they're looking for, and I hope that everybody finds their right zivug at the right time, and the faster the better.
Amen.
The better it is.
Amen.
Wishing everyone the best. Should be a good year. It should be a year of bracha, a year of Yeshua, Fulfillment, and everything goes to all Klal Yisrael.
Happy face, smiley face, silly face. This is Nobody Talks Shidduchim podcast.
Alchi's Media Network.